So in any room that you find yourself, out of every 4 people, there's definitely one person that's facing a mental health issue.
So what happens when you ignore your mental health? Are there any consequences, or is something that can just go on and without getting treated?
It's a lot of illnesses people are walking into the hospital with are not medical.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they are
That's interesting.
psychological. Yeah, very much so. So a lot of doctors are now tending to refer clients or patients to us as psychologists, because not every mental health condition is actually something to do with madness or anything like that. God didn't give tears to just women.
Yeah.
Men also have been given tears, isn't it? So what are you storing it in there for? When you're going through stress, depression, anxiety, and so on, you can tend to either be overeating,
Okay.
you can be undereating, okay, which can actually affect your... Another thing we find is that people are also tending to go spiritually with things.
Yes.
When they go medical, it's not working, then they tend to go to the spiritual side of things. They realize that, yes, you pray. Prayer is good. You're praying about things, but it's not going away. You just might need to
You just need to see a professional.
see a psychologist. You know, the stress hormone, which is cortisol, an excessive release of it can actually affect...
Leading people is quite difficult. How do you handle stress as a manager or as a leader
Okay.
in a corporate environment like this?
So first and foremost, as a leader, you must...
Does therapy work?
Of course, therapy does work. It really works. Like I said, sometimes just talking to somebody at home helps. That may be what you need. Talk therapy is everything. So
I also want to find out how a company like Hubtel can work to improve the mental health of its employees. What are some practical steps that can be taken?
okay, so
You show up to work sharp and all switched on, but what happens when the pressure never lets up? On today's episode of Hubtel Podcasts, I'll be discussing stress management and mental health. And with me is Madam Anthea Crab. She's a clinical psychologist consulting for HealthNet, Airport Medical Center, and Aruka Center. So, Doc, according to WHO, 1 out of 4 people have mental health issues. How true is that?
that's absolutely correct. It's very true. So in any room that you find yourself, out of every 4 people, there's definitely one person that's facing a mental health issue. So it's very true. And it's alarming.
Okay.
Yes.
So what happens when you ignore your mental health? Are there any consequences, or is something that can just go on and without getting treated?
We can't ignore it. It's not something we can ignore. And in recent times, it's even getting worse.
Okay.
So we really need to pay attention to it because it is treatable. It's very treatable, and early intervention helps.
Okay.
So it's very important that we speak on these things and make people understand it more. Okay, in terms of breaking the stigma, normalizing conversation about mental health, it's very important. So yeah, we can't ignore it at all. We need to speak up about it.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right, sure. So Doc is going to walk us through the various aspects of mental health, and she'll show us how to handle things like anxiety, burnout, culture, right, and depression. Okay. So Doc, you can take us through what you have for us.
Okay, so what to expect today? I want us to look at what mental health is, because there's a lot of conversations being thrown around, and people are just using the term mental health anyhow. Okay, talking about my mental health, my mental health. So I just want us to understand that. I want us to also do a quick check-in for everybody. We'll also roll into looking at what stress management is.
Okay.
And then there's a add-on where we'll be looking at work-life balance.
Okay.
Especially with the kind of work environment we find ourselves here in Hubtel.
Corporate environment.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very important that we look at that. Yes.
So why don't we start with what mental health stands for? What is mental health?
Okay, so Mental health is basically one's overall well-being when it comes to your emotions, when it comes to you socially as a person and psychologically. So it's just looking at your overall well-being, how you are function as a person.
Okay.
And what goes into it is basically how you think, how you behave, how you react, okay, and then your relation with others.
Okay.
This is what we're looking at when we say mental health.
Okay.
So these three areas of your life: socially, psychologically, and emotionally.
Okay.
How well you're doing in these areas is what's classified as your mental health.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So, Doc, there's a bit of a stigma around mental health. I mean, when people talk about it, they think it has to do with you losing it, right? So it's equal for people to admit it to themselves and also point it out when they come across it in other people. So how are we going to be able to identify it and be sure that it's actually a mental health issue and it needs to be treated?
Okay. Now, the discussion on stigma is, especially in this part of our world,
Yeah.
is very, prevalent. It's been stigmatized. And I would believe it's got a lot to do with us as a people
Okay.
in this part of the world and our culture. Okay. The stigma is there, and a lot of people relate it especially to the religious side of things. Okay. So there's so many ways of actually finding out if you have a mental health, problem. It's cast across. There's so many disorders we have.
Okay.
We can break them all down and help you identify, which I know we'll be going into, further details in that. But there are certain signs, and symptoms. I want us to do a quick check-in.
Okay.
For us here, if we're looking at in the last 2 weeks, okay, how are you feeling in terms of your mood?
Okay.
Okay. You want to also look at your sleep patterns, okay, concentration levels.
Okay.
Okay. There's so many things that go into it. But one thing I say to people is knowing yourself is everything. Okay. So when you know yourself as a person and how you function as a person, anytime something is going out of the ordinary for you, you'll be able to pick it up. It's not that easy all the time, but majorly the right thing will be to speak to somebody about it. When you find that you're getting overwhelmed, maybe with the pressure at work, with the family, relationally, financially. Okay. So speaking up about your issues can really help you. Now, you mentioned about the thing where people think mental health equated to madness, if I can say it. It's very true. The moment you're mentioning, everybody's thinking, oh, you're off. No, not at all. Not every mental health condition is actually something to do with madness or anything like that. So the more we speak about it, and I'm happy we're having something like this, where we're educating ourselves about it, so we know when, to speak up, and then when, to be able to identify if help is needed.
Okay.
Okay.
So can a man like me admit that I'm depressed or I'm stressed?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. And we find a lot of men tend to keep emotions in.
Okay.
Men don't like to speak up, and that's also another thing. The society makes you men. Even here in Ghana, we say men don't cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because to them, it makes them seem soft.
exactly.
Yeah.
But that is not true. Speaking up about what you're going through, it's not a sign of weakness.
Okay.
It's actually a sign of strength.
Oh.
Okay. So, and men do cry. Of course. What I say is that, God didn't give tears to just women.
Yeah.
Men also have been given tears, isn't it? So what are you storing it in there for? And there's a reason why you have them. Sometimes when you're going through a challenge, crying alone is what will help you. Sometimes, not all the time. Just letting it out and even crying about it, even as a man, you realize that you feel better. So it's not about men trying to man up and be, you also have emotions. Okay. So expressing it, speaking up is something that we need to, normalize.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before you do your quick check-in, I just want to bring up one last bit. I mean, a number of men have expressed the outcome of expressing emotions to their wives, right? There used to be a lot of respect until they open up one time, and then since then the relationship hasn't been the same again.
True.
What do you think leads to that, and how can you remedy that?
Okay, so with that, I would say it would be wise to speak to a professional.
Instead of your wife?
You can open up to your wife.
Okay.
But here's where you're saying that it just turns the whole relationship upside down.
Yeah.
Someone like that will just hold in, won't open up. So once you've tried it that way and it goes like that, then maybe don't stop there. Speak to somebody, get a professional who would understand you, not use it against you, and things like that. So it's advisable to know who you're speaking to, trust who you're speaking to. And then we say to the wives as well, you're emotionally there for them. Non-judgmental, approach to these things is very important.
Okay.
Sometimes to going together with your wife to speak to the professional is also helpful, advisable, so that they can walk you through, whatever is going on and, how to handle it and come out of it better.
Okay.
So it will be best to normally, first point of call, speak to a professional. Well, your wife, you can open up, but if it's not helping, then the professional approach might be better.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, sure. So we can proceed
with a quick check-in, which I want every one of us to do actually. So just look at yourself, and in the last 2 weeks, are you feeling more tired than usual? Okay. Are you low in energy? Even after you've got a good amount of rest.
Okay.
Pay attention to that. Another thing I want us to look at is sleep. Are you able to sleep okay? Has your sleep patterns changed? Are you finding yourself, you sleep all right, and then probably, in the wee hours of the night, you're up. It's called early awakening. You can't sleep again.
So that's a disorder?
I won't say it's a disorder. It's a symptom or a sign of something going on.
Okay.
So pay attention to that. We can also look at mood changes. We have people who, all of a sudden you're irritable. You're not one to be like that. Then all of a sudden everything just gets you so upset. And then another thing you want to look out for is maybe you're someone who is quiet, okay? And all of a sudden you're just bubbly and, all over the place. That's a sign.
I think that's a good sign, or?
You will think it's a good sign, but that's when you know yourself.
Okay.
And so you're going outside of who you really are. Pay attention to it.
Sure.
So someone also feeling sad a lot, unexplainable sadness, look at that. Your concentration is not just going, it's just, all muddled up.
You can focus on one.
You're not focusing. Pay attention. Then the very last one. So this is not exhaustive. There's so many things we actually look out for, but these are the main things that when you find, going off with you, pay attention. Another thing is the physical symptoms.
Okay.
You tend to have muscle tensions, digestive issues as well. Sometimes could be a sign of something coming up.
Okay.
So being able to pick these things up early can actually help you, where we can actually take you through therapy. If we need to refer you, if medications are needed, yes, then we go into that. So this is a quick check-in. In the last 2 weeks, if any of you have felt anything like this, speak up about it.
That might be a sign that something is not right.
Exactly.
Okay. How do you end up with such physical symptoms like headaches and digestion? How are they related to stress and anxiety?
Right. Yeah, I know quite a lot of people kind of wonder how your digestive system can actually be affected by that. It does. So for instance, let me look at it from the behavioral side of things. When you're going through stress, depression, anxiety, and so on, you can tend to either be overeating.
Okay.
You can be undereating. Okay. Which can actually affect your digestive system. So you find that someone who tends to, some people will want to eat more when they're going through a stressful situation. Yeah. it does affect you,
Okay.
that way.
So they use that as like a coping mechanism.
Yeah, thank you. Something like that. It can also affect you. It can lead to diarrhea. It can lead to constipation, especially the things that you're actually eating more of. Okay. And then another thing, when it comes to stress, the stress hormone, which is cortisol, an excessive release of it can actually affect the guts.
Okay.
It can cause imbalances in the chemicals in the guts that can actually lead to the constipation or the diarrhea. So in that way, it's kind of linked in a way. So if you're going through any of these issues mentally, it can affect you as a person, your organs, and different parts of your body.
Okay.
So these are all signs to look out for. Yeah.
Sure. So what do you say about hustle culture? I'm sure that also has to do with these kind of symptoms, right?
Oh, of course. It depends. The world is now so fast paced. Everything is happening,
Yeah. Somebody says the world is run by tired people, right? It's gradually becoming the norm.
And it's because it's being normalized. But is it the right thing? Not at all. We need to wake up and pay attention to these things, because when we look at mental health as a whole, it's impacting your physical health,
Okay.
longevity, how long you're going to live. It determines it to a very large extent. And a lot of relationships are being affected by it. Your social interactions.
Yeah.
Okay. We also look at your overall satisfaction and happiness. A lot of people are walking around with smiles, but inside they're very, 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 very sad. Okay. It could be issues they are going through. We also tend to find that a lot of illnesses people are walking into the hospital with are not medical.
Okay.
Yes, they are
That's interesting.
psychological. Yeah, very much so. So a lot of doctors are now tending to refer clients or patients to us as psychologists, because these are things that is not being able to being explained by medication or the science of the body, or if I can say it that way. So you find that some people have some headaches that they can't explain. You've walked to the doctor, he's examined you, you've done some x-rays, MRI scans, they just can't seem to find what is wrong. You're fine. Yes, though you're having headaches. It could be a psychological issue.
Okay.
And not a medical condition. You get it? Even with this digestive thing I'm talking about, you find out you're having a lot of diarrhea or constipation. You go to the hospital, you're taking medications, it's not helping it. It could be a psychological issue.
Okay.
Yeah, so it could be an underlying factor. It could be your stress. The stress you're having at work, academics, in the family, relationship. That could be the reason why you're having those symptoms. So you realize that the doctor isn't able to treat it. Now, another thing we find is that people are also tending to go spiritually with things.
Yes.
When they go medical, it's not working, then they tend to go to the spiritual side of things. They realize that, yes, you pray. Prayer is good. You're praying about things, but it's not going away. You just might need to
see a professional.
See a psychologist. We go deeper. Because a lot of things we find as well that is stemming from childhood. So many people are facing challenges today. It didn't start today. You won't find a problem today. It might just be a trauma you went through as a child. Okay. It might just be something that you faced growing up, an abuse, okay, neglect, okay, abandonment, something you face growing up, okay, and the environment you grew up in.
Yeah.
And then when you grow up now, life is happening, pressure is going on, you have a family, you have kids, then those things that are already in there that haven't been taken care of, they show up and they blow up. And before you know, you have a mental health crisis. So things like this, we need to actually pay attention.
Awesome. So before you know it, you're even passing it down on to your children, right?
Exactly, because they're always in the same house with them. You're tending to be, shouting a lot, lashing out and everything. You're isolating yourself. You're trying to be alone. You're not interacting with your children. Know that it affects them. Mind you probably saw that as well growing up.
Yes.
And subconsciously, you're repeating it. You get it. So these are things we really need to look at and then talk about.
So you heard her. prayer is good, but when prayer stops working, seek a consultant, right? So, Anthea, can you tell us exactly what you do when people come for consultation? And does it work?
Okay, let me answer your second one first. It does.
Okay.
Yes, it works. So typically, we have a booking system, obviously, where we take a client's details. You you fill a form where we know somewhat a little bit of what's going on and things like that. Let me touch on confidentiality.
Okay.
And this is where a lot of people get a bit itchy about. We are bound by law, okay, on confidentiality. We cannot speak or send information out unless you have given us approval to. So confidentiality is everything when it comes to our field of work.
Okay.
Because this is people's lives. People are opening up about deep things about them to you. So it's highly confidential. The law backs us to do that. Now, it's only when we find that maybe whatever information you're given is putting you as a person at risk and people around you at risk, then the law allows us to probably act out and, give that information. So confidentiality is key.
Okay.
Now, when you come in, we assess you. Obviously, we do an initial intake to actually find out what's going on with you. And then we can do an assessment where we now dive deeper, looking more into, deeper areas of your life or whatever the root cause is, trying to find that out, figure it out. Then sometimes you might need certain tools, which are the psychological tests that we would give you. Maybe if we want to test for anxiety, we want to test for stress. So there are certain tests that we do. Sometimes if it's a substance use disorder, we want to check for the substance and things like that. So we can actually do some assessments, and based on that, it would also let us know or channel us the right direction as to what therapy would work for you.
Okay.
So we're looking about maybe, depending on your case, 3 to 5 sessions, maximum maybe 6 sessions with a therapist to walk you through it. Another thing we do after therapy is to do a recovery kind of trying to call you back in, take you through if there are any challenges that have sprung up, how well you're doing, more like a review sort of, okay? And then again, sometimes we may need to refer you.
Okay.
We work with other professionals. Like I said, we're already working with doctors. We also work with psychiatrists and the social workers.
Okay.
We work with DOFSU and, people like, we work with lawyers as well.
Okay.
There are some cases that may need that. So if there is a need for a referral, we'll refer you to, one of these people. So we work hand in hand,
Okay.
with different professionals. So basically that is it. Once we find out you're good, you're okay, then we can close the case, and then, life goes on and leaving you much better than you came in.
Does therapy work?
Of course, therapy does work. It really works. Like I said, sometimes just talking to somebody at home helps. That may be what you need. Talk therapy is everything. So seek help. I tell people, you are 50% healed. Taking that step.
If you can open up about it to someone.
Open up about it to someone, okay? And talk about what's going on with you. It does help. It works. It works. There's proof it does. So let's get talking, let's open up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I also want to find out how a company like Hubtel can work to improve the mental health of its employees. What are some practical steps that can be taken?
Okay. So with the environment we find ourselves, like here at Hubtel, I believe it's very fast paced, right? Yes. So let's take something like stress, for example, which is a person's physical or mental response to external causes. And that's what stress is.
Yeah.
So it also could be a feeling of being overwhelmed, which I believe maybe most of the workers here might feel when they're not able to cope with the pressure and all of that. So there's so many things that we can look out for when it comes to something like stress. So let's look at some of the coping mechanisms here that you can look at as a company as Hubtel. There's so many things we can go through. I'll just pick a few pointers for us. So first and foremost, looking at the fast pace you have here, it will be very wise for us to be setting priorities, okay? Know what is urgent, know what is important to be done. So say, for instance, Harrison, you come in the day, there's this matrix I teach people. It's the Eisenhower matrix, where you put your to-dos in 4 quadrants, which is the urgent, not important, important, not urgent, urgent, very important, not urgent, not important. So it's 4 quadrants.
So not everything is important.
Yes, not everything in this working environment, I believe. And not everything is urgent, okay? So for instance, with that matrix, okay, once you've come in, you know what you're supposed to do for the day. So what you can do is, with the very first quadrant, which is urgent and important, do that first. Okay? Do those ones first. Then the ones that are not so urgent but important to do, you can actually schedule that. Put it in a plan and schedule to do it at whatever point in time it needs to be done, because it is important. Then let's say we look at something like, that's not urgent. It's urgent but not important, sorry. Delegate that. It has to be done and done now. Get somebody to do it for you if possible. And then you can carry on with other things. The very last one that's not urgent, not important, you can do away with that. So that's the first off. As a worker coming in, you can put that kind of matrix out, which will help you. I get that it's so fast-paced and it's pressured. Somebody will tell you everything is urgent, everything is important. Yes. Very true. But then this is where you need to look at yourself, be able to set boundaries, okay? Setting boundaries is not a sign of disrespect or, it should be normalized, where you can actually respectfully decline certain things.
If it's not in your calendar, don't attend the meeting.
Thank you. Something like that. So you're not putting pressure on yourself. Know when to raise your no card and when to say yes. Boundary setting in our part of time, our culture doesn't really allow it too much. The culture we find ourselves. That is why it's a bit hard and tough for us. I find that a lot of, working environments here in Ghana is like that. But you should be able to know when to say, I'm sorry, can we reschedule this? I'm sorry, I can't be there for this. I'm sorry, I can't do this. I can do it later on. Let's be able to set boundaries, okay? Time management as well. Managing your time is very important when it comes to an area like this where there's a lot of stress. Prioritizing what is, very important to do or urgent to do, and knowing when to deal with other things. So there's so many things we can look out for. I like what we're doing here today. This talk today that Hubtel is doing is one of the ways where they're thinking about the employees, isn't it? To put up, a health topic like this to help them, handle their mental health. So it's little things like this helps. Another thing is for management, like leaders, to actually be the role models. Okay. So managers should pay attention to working the conditions here, pay attention to the workers, being able to identify who is going through what. There's something we teach top management, which is psychological first aid, where they know their workers
Psychological first aid.
where they'll be able to step in terms of like somebody having like a crisis or facing any challenge, knowing how to handle such a situation like that. It's very important. Now, you are the role models. They're looking at you. So you also should be practicing these healthy lifestyle balances and things here at the workplace. So it's important. The leaders form a very pivotal role when it comes to the talk of mental health and things like that. So it's important we look at all these things. And then also adapting flexibility at work. I don't know what it's like here at Hubtel. Are you able to work remotely?
Over here, it's hybrid. I mean, you can
Hybrid,
work from
brilliant.
your office, you can work from home.
Okay. So that's brilliant. That kind of releases some kind of pressure and tension among workers. But then again, it comes to where, how are you monitoring, work effectiveness of work outside of the work environment? You get it. A lot of things come to play, but it's important. The flexibility also helps. So many different things can go into it. I think Hapsol is doing well, and workers will thrive better.